Steven, Alon, two of you. Well, this is going to be one hell of a podcast. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Just Your Opinion, man. Steven is hanging out on a weeknight. What's the occasion?
I'm back because I was originally when we were doing the Sunday morning thing, and you're like, we can only do this on nights at like 7:30. I was like, I need to wake up early. I can't do it. And then when you guys started doing the Wednesday podcast, I started going like, you know what? I could probably do a podcast right now. Plus, I don't like waiting till Sunday to get these football takes off, son. I don't like doing that.
It's too much waiting. He's like a horse in the starting gate. He's just got to go.
We're all here. Derek Papa,
Alon, I appreciate you holding it down, man.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I'm glad you're back, Steven.
Yeah, man.
That's the thing about Alon. He's a fan. He's a fan of the podcast, and he's willing to fill in. And Alon, you are welcome to join on Wednesday nights if you want to continue, my man. Up to you.
Yeah, anytime I'm free, and if you guys need it, I'll definitely be around. So, things are going to get more hectic as the playoff push begins for the Las Vegas Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, yes. We will get to it all. Just your opinion, man. Ernie's here, so let's start this thing. We got a ton to talk about, ranging from everything in football to what's going on with baseball, with the hot stove heating up. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But, Steven, congratulations on your football team, England.
Thank you.
Beating Senegal. So who are they facing on Saturday?
France.
Ooh, wee.
Yeah.
You like those odds?
No, I do not. I'm not looking forward to it. But you know what? It is what it is. We're the underdog right now, and I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, I'm scared.
Okay. Yeah. Alon, who's your money on?
I mean, France is a better team, but that doesn't mean England can't beat them. France they kind of cruised into this stage of the World Cup, but they're not very what's the word? They're not very amicable towards each other on the team. They're a little dysfunctional, but they just have a lot of raw talent. I don't know. England could win.
Alon, I've never asked you, what is your last name? Like, what's the heritage of your last name? Is that French? Alon?
It's French. Yeah, it's French. Yeah.
Oh.
So maybe I'm a little biased. I'm a little biased towards France, maybe.
All right. So we got some shit going down between the two of you now. So
yeah.
Are we gonna have a wager?
Yeah, you know what, Steven? You set the odds, and I'll bet the other side of it. I don't care what it is. We bet on anything.
Why do I have to wager when I don't believe my team's going to win?
No, that's not good.
Yeah, that's good. Come on, man. It's your team.
I know.
I think England could stay in within a couple of goals, Steven.
Steven, as we always say, for king and country.
Okay, if I make the goal line at +1.5. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll take England to cover. I'm not going to take them to win, but I'll take them to cover that at +1.5.
I'll take the other side. Yeah, I'll take the other side. And if I lose, I will go find some ghost pepper sauce in my cupboard, and I will put that on my tongue on the podcast.
By the way,
has Derek eaten any hot food, done anything to that sort? Because he's lost since week 9 in the NFL, and he hasn't really eaten anything, and it's understandable. It's at 8 in the morning before football on Sunday, but yeah.
I will buy some hot sauce, and I will put it in a beer this Sunday. I owe you a shit ton. I will figure something out on Sunday to give you what you want, Steven, and give you my end of the bargain of not coming through. It's just been tough. I'll be completely honest. I am dead tired doing these, 4-hour radio shows and then coming back on at night. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm a bit stanko right now. That's how we say tired in Italian. So I'm looking for you guys for most of the conversation tonight. But Steven, I will give you your punishment, and I will do the hot sauce and a beer this Sunday morning.
You could. I don't know, wear a box during the show.
Yeah, not all of us have access to boxes like you do.
Come on, man! It's Christmas time. You don't have an Amazon package that's arriving or something?
No, I hate gifts. I'm the Grinch.
Dress up as Osimo, with the Osimo box. There you go. That look really cool.
That's more Elena's thing. That is more
kind of Elena's thing. Yeah, that's true.
But I will say, Steven, I dominated this past week. I went perfect, with the exception of the tie because no one picks ties. But I picked every game right.
Oh wow, well done.
Damn right it was.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Well,
and as far as my picks, Vegas style, did pretty well too. So, Alon, maybe I need to send you some picks here then.
Give me some tips, baby. Come on, I need that money.
oh boy, you're screwed.
But yeah, Steven, I will pay up this weekend in some form or fashion. I don't know if I could drink a ton of beers that I owe you, but I will do something. And Alon, I beat you last week because you picked the Patriots to win Thursday Night Football, and the Bills won, but they kind of lost today as well. We'll get into it. But let's talk about the team that we all focus on, the Las Vegas Raiders. And they have won 3 in a row. The record's at 5-7. They beat the Los Angeles Chargers 27-20. And dominant game by Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams, probably two guys that are on their way to, I would say right now, all-pro selections. Josh Jacobs leading the league in rushing, and Davante Adams tied with Travis Kelce for most receiving touchdowns in football. It was a shaky start. Derek Carr throwing the pick six to, who was it, Bryce Callahan?
Yeah.
And besides that, I mean, they had the one touchdown pass to Keenan Allen after he said he was going to go after the Raiders' single coverage and cook them up like barbecue chicken.
Barbecue chicken alert.
Barbecue chicken. But none of that happened. For the most part, the Raiders' defense, how about this? Chandler Jones showing up, 3 sacks. This guy knows how to play one game a year. Chandler Jones, 5 sacks in a game last season, 3 sacks this season. Overall, probably, I mean, it's the Chargers, and they came back a little bit in the end, and we were all on pins and needles towards the end there. If, I was debating with Steven and our buddy Evan if they should have gone for it at the end of that game, or you punt it back to the Chargers with the risk of them going for 2 once again if they score, but none of that happened. I would say overall, probably one of their best performances of the season. Steven?
Yeah. When texting Evan, it's the saddest thing ever because he's a Chargers fan, and like both of us think our teams are going to lose. So it's there's no trash talking. It's like just all sympathy for each other. It's like, well, we're probably going to lose. No, I think we are. But yeah, they played their most complete game of the season, and it was great. And I'm kind of heading toward like actually thinking, hey, I'm talking myself into a little playoffs because that was a huge win. That was a huge win against the Chargers team who managed to do that thing on 4th down with that unbelievable catch by Keenan Allen. Davante Adams is so sick. Josh Jacobs is just unreal. Like you're saying, all pro. He might even be in the offensive player of the year conversation. So I don't know. That's just the kind of game, man, that I normally they wouldn't win that early on in the season if that was like the 2nd or 3rd game, but that one they turned around, and the defense got it done.
Alon?
Yeah, exactly what Steven just said. The defense really played. Defense played their best game of not just the year, but that might be the best game that the Raiders defense has played in maybe the last 5 years. I mean, it's something close like that. You got to think, when's the last time a Raiders defense only gave up 1 offensive touchdown? I can't really think of too many examples. At least as long as Derek Carr's been on the team. So that's kind of, you got to think about that. So they did great. Chandler Jones finally showing up. I think a stat that is super important was the offensive line didn't give up a single sack all day. I know Derek Carr threw that pick 6. They only gave up a handful of pressures. One of them actually on that flea flicker, the big shot to Davante. Someone did get in Carr's face at the very end of that play, but it was already a home run by the time that happened. So the offensive line has to get a lot of credit, which is just incredible for me because that was a unit coming into the season. Everyone went, this is going to be one of the worst offensive lines in football. And over the past, couple weeks here, they've played really well. They have kept Carr upright. They've given him enough time. He's made some mistakes with the picks and the pick 6, but no, they're opening up big holes for Josh Jacobs. I don't think they had a negative run all day on Sunday, and that's just it's kind of amazing when I know there was no Bosa, but they shut Khalil Mack out. I mean, I was sitting there in the stands telling my buddy who I was with, I went, Khalil Mack's going to get his eventually, and it just never happened. So for the Raiders to be able to shut down a guy who is now their enemy, because we all know what happened, him not being there anymore, it was a pretty big statement win. And Justin Herbert valiantly fought till the end, but he was under duress all day. And real quick to Keenan Allen, that barbecue chicken statement, man, that's going to live on for a little while because the Raiders did not forget about that. Deron Harmon memed him, I think, on Twitter or Instagram, and I thought Amick Robertson did a good job on him, and they did a pretty good job on him all day. So just a great performance by the defense, and it looks like the offense is kind of getting to that point now. Josh McDaniels is a play caller where he knows exactly which buttons to press to get this team into good position to score points. So if that defense can keep chugging along, dangerous team, even with the 5-7 record.
Wait, dude, you were at the game?
Yeah, I got season tickets, Steven.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, man, come out for that Niner game,
Dude. Oh my god.
Alon's got the hookup.
What's that like with the Charger fans though? Because it looks like there's always like just the opposing fans, it feels like, take over the stadium at times, but like with the Chargers, they can't even get fans into their own stadium. So is it any different in Vegas?
I've seen more. It's kind of funny. I've seen more Chargers fans. Maybe it's different now at SoFi, but I've seen more Chargers fans at a Chargers Raider game in Vegas than I ever did down in San Diego at Jack Murphy said Qualcomm Stadium. So there's a decent little smattering of them, but not that many. I mean, there's just not a lot of Charger fans out there. That's the problem.
Yeah, I was impressed with the defense. I was impressed with the offense. I think everything's clicking the right way. I want to ask you, Alon, at the end of that game, not a big deal, because in the end, the defense took care of business. But did you think maybe for a second, what was the situation? I just want to get your opinion, because I was thinking this.
On that 4th and 12, are you talking about that?
I don't think it was 4th or 12. I think it was
the 4th down for the Raiders, where he thought they should have gone for it and put the game away instead of punting the ball.
Hold on.
Inside their 10.
It was 4th and 3 on the Chargers' 42-yard line. And, yeah, no timeouts left for the Chargers. There's an argument to be made to go for it there. Just an argument.
Yeah, there. You can make that argument, but I think it's a really quick thought process. You think, okay, we can 100% end the game here if we go for it, but it's the better play, and I don't know what the winning percentage, if it goes up or down, whether you punt or not in that situation. But I was watching it, and I told my buddy, I said, they got to punt here because the Chargers will have 15, 20 seconds to get down the field, 90 yards. AJ Cole's a good punter. Don't outcoach yourself out of a win. Don't Brandon Staley it up. Just punt the ball, get the win, play good defense.
Steven.
Derek, your 4th down arguments are so confusing and so weird. Okay, like, Alon, I was on the side in the last game where they had a couple of opportunities to go for it on 4th down, and I thought there could have been arguments made for the one coming out of the half in that last game where they could have gone for it on 4th down when they're on the opposing 10. And
you're talking about against the Seahawks.
Derek said, no argument. There's no argument. They shouldn't have gone for it. They did the right thing, and they won the game, Steven. They won the game. And then
pretty solid impression.
It is not bad.
It was actually. I haven't worked on that. That was just spur of the moment. I'm gonna keep that in the memory.
Sure.
But then this time, when they clearly shouldn't have gone for it on 4th down, Derek's like, there's an argument to be made.
That's subjective.
Come on. Did you really think that, Derek? Did you really think that?
My thing is, when you feel it, you feel it. And believe me, there is no rhyme or reason of going for it on 4th down or kicking a field goal or punting. I just know that in that situation, you could have just ended the game. I am not mad at Josh McDaniels for what he did whatsoever. It's the more logical thing to do. But, in the heat of the moment, I was like, well, shit. I mean, 4th and 3, it's manageable here. But he did the smart thing.
The Chargers ran a hook and lateral too, right? On that last possession they had. And they got a decent amount of yards. That could have looked a lot different had the Raiders not gotten the 1st down if they do go for it on 4th and 3. I'm not saying they give him a touchdown there, but you're just opening up a whole another can of worms. I just think, Derek, what would you do? If you're the coach, you're Coach Derek Papa, are you punting or are you going for it?
Well, I mean, back in my flag football days when I was coaching little boys, I always went for it on 4th down because we couldn't punt.
So you didn't have an option. You had to go for it on 4th down.
I was innovative, Alon.
You were a coach of a flag football team?
Oh, yeah, in high school. My freshman year of high school, my stepbrother was coaching our little brother in his flag football league, and he gave up fast, and I took over. I was the interim head coach, and then I became the permanent head coach, and all of the soccer moms loved me.
Who's Jeff Saturday?
Exactly. I was like, and the best team in that league were the Raiders. These kids were so good. Damn, God.
Did you
Hey,
ever
but-
yell at any of them?
Oh yeah, no, I was a mess. I would scream
Oh.
at the refs. I hated the parents because all of them were like, "My son's Barry Sanders," and I was like, "Please." So it was fun. It was fun, but also like hectic. And also, I would have to like come up with plays that the kids would understand. So I would name them like superheroes. Like, okay, we're running Batman here, or like like it's like Sean McVay shit where you're like, oh, Halle Berry. Like I had to do
Right.
stuff to like make the kids remember it, like with like, oh, we're running Yu-Gi-Oh here or whatever the fuck. Like,
You knew how to get through to them. That's one of the most important jobs of a coach, Derek. That's incredible. You should
Yeah.
write a book about it. I like that.
it will be a
done.
short book, probably like 5 pages,
Yeah,
a pamphlet, if you will.
it'll be like a Bill Walsh sequel almost, except it's just Derek Dawson, genius of flag football coaching.
Bill Walsh wishes he was me. But no, I'm with you guys. They made the right call, and I was just nervous because we saw Justin Herbert do that a year ago in the last game of the year, Week 18. The Raiders were up, I think, by 2 scores, and then just ridiculousness led to that tie game going into overtime, and we all know what happened with the Raiders. The Chargers, giving them a chance to tie it up or whatever the hell. But yeah, in the end, and also I just didn't, if Brandon Staley's given the opportunity to tie a game, he's always going to go for it, to go for 2. So I was just nervous about that. But in the end, Josh McDaniels made the right call, and the Raiders are 5-7, 3-game winning streak. Are we trusting Josh McDaniels more, Alon?
Yes, I think the fan base, I think most media pundits, just about everybody is trusting Josh McDaniels more because how can you argue with the results? I know one of the wins is against Denver, who's not good at all, and they got a litany of problems. Another one's against a decent team in Seattle who has playoff aspirations, even though they're rolling with Geno Smith, a quarterback who's had a very nice season up. Actually, he had a good weekend on Sunday as well. So I think there's a lot more confidence in him. I think that the big question was, did Josh McDaniels have the locker room? That was one of the big questions that was floating around, especially when they were sitting at 2-7, and even a few weeks before that as well. I think those rumors have been put to bed. You don't respond with a 3-game winning streak and 2 of those games going into overtime if your coach doesn't have the locker room. So I would say, yeah, the confidence is probably the last time the confidence was this high in Josh McDaniels as coach of the Raiders was when he got hired.
Yeah. No, he's figured out how to use Adams and Jacobs. Like, really, that's what it's been about with the offense. It's like, it's really based on, like, honestly, the entire team. Even it's besides Chandler Jones having that great game with the Chargers, like every single one of their wins, it's just been like based on 3 guys: Adams, Jacobs, and then Crosby. And then, I got to throw Derek Carr into that conversation because he was dropping some dimes in that game against the Chargers. But also, getting started kind of slow in a lot of games. But these guys are just so consistent. It seems like McDaniels has figured out a way to use them effectively. And who's the offensive line coach again? Is it Tom Cable?
No, it's not.
No.
It's not Tom Cable. It's Carmen Basilio.
Well, he gets a lot of credit because he is damn, does he know how to draw up a run blocking scheme and actually get these guys going. So it feels like they've figured it out. I just want him to stay healthy for the rest of the season. But, dude, the thing is, like, McDaniels has done enough to where I'm like, they can possibly even make it to the playoffs. Just they got to win out. Like, they absolutely do. But there was one point that I heard because I'd point toward the 49ers and the Chiefs and be like, okay, those two games, they're freaking losses. Well, Brock Purdy's starting for the 49ers. Who knows what it's going to be like by the time that, you're 4 games in or whatever it is. Yeah, I think it's the 4th game remaining on the schedule. And then at least for the Niners it is. And then the Chiefs, I mean, there's a chance that the Chiefs have such a big lead within the conference that they just sit all their guys in the last game of the season. Like there's a real chance of that just getting ready for the playoffs. And I mean, didn't they do that before where they've given their players like 2 weeks to rest and they basically had like a 2-week bye?
Yeah, it has happened before, and I'm with you, Steven. But just as far as going forward, I think that McDaniels has figured things out a little bit. I think that Derek Carr has figured it out finally. And, I brought this up before. It's frustrating where there's expectations and guys like Mike McDaniel, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Dable have their teams going from the get-go. But it's nice now that they've gone to a flow and things are finally the way that we were expecting with the Raiders. But as far as the schedule, I'm with you, Steven. They got the Rams tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football in LA, and that is a home game for the Raiders. Don't care who's starting at quarterback, John Walford, Baker Mayfield, who just got picked up by the Rams after he wanted to be released by the Panthers. I think the Raiders win that game. I think that the Rams kind of have, they put up a fight against the Seahawks, but they kind of are packing it in a little bit. Aaron Donald will not play in this game. Matthew Stafford's out for the season. So I think that's the Raiders' game to win. And then a week from that, they play the New England Patriots, and we all know the history of Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. So I'm sure that he wants to beat his mentor. And then after that, interesting game on Christmas Eve on prime time on NFL Network against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers are playing good football right now, so that could go either way in my book. But yes, the interesting ones are the last two games of the season. We all have circled this game since the schedule came out, January 1st, New Year's Day against the 49ers. And initially, you're thinking the Raiders will probably get their ass kicked. But now that Jimmy Garoppolo is out for the season and Brock Purdy is playing, you wonder if there's enough offense will be scored in that game for the Niners. And then, yes, the last game of the year against the Kansas City Chiefs. I would think at this current moment that if the Raiders do win all those games and the Chiefs are neck and neck with the Buffalo Bills, and that is an opportunity for them to win that game and get home field advantage, that will probably be your Sunday Night Football flex game in prime time, where the Chiefs win, they're the number one seed. If Raiders win, they go to the playoffs. If they don't, they're out. So it might be crazy because, yes, they were 2-7 once upon a time, but they've won 3 in a row, and you look at the schedule, this is manageable. I don't know if they'll do it, but this is on the table, in my opinion.
It's definitely hard to keep momentum going. I will say this about this team specifically, and they're much different than last year's team, who ran the table at the very end the last 4 weeks to get into the playoffs. I think that this team has the potential to be much more consistent to make a run like that, and it would be because of the people that Steven and you brought up earlier, Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is a madman right now. Davante Adams can't be covered. It will be a bit of a litmus test to see if this running game can do it against what's been a pretty good run defense in the Rams. I'm curious to see if Josh Jacobs can get the job done against Los Angeles. But I think this team has more potential to continue winning than, let's say, last year's team did, and they won 4 straight games to punch their ticket to the playoffs. So, yes, they would have to probably win 5 more, and that's very tough to win 8 in a row is what it would end up being. But I think this team is much better equipped for that job than last year's team was.
Yeah, and going back to Davante Adams too, like when Ocho Cinco cried when he watched his route running or something. Did you ever see that? Or he watched
Did he actually cry?
He watched like a highlight reel of Davante Adams running routes and he teared up.
Okay, but
but I get it.
Okay, but Chad Johnson also cries when it's like $2 Big Macs at McDonald's.
Yeah. Understandable. Great deal.
Great deal.
Nah, okay, you're right. I can't fault him for that.
Could you imagine? Hey, they got the McDonald's Gold Card sweepstakes thing. Just saw that. Did you guys see that?
I did. Free McDonald's it's not for life. It's like 30 years. But, I mean, come on. If you eat McDonald's every week, that is your life. 30 years probably about.
They also just hold you twice a week, which is stupid.
Yeah, twice a week.
I don't know. But the route running on Adams, it's like, he could just take on anybody, man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Like that last game, just the way that he's able to get wide open. I know like A.J. Brown had the largest separation that any receiver could get in a game. If you saw that with the Eagles.
Well, he manhandled that defensive back.
He absolutely did. Yeah.
Roger McCreary, he just pushed him down.
That was right after he was already called for pass interference too, I think. Had an OPI on the 41-yard touchdown. But anyway, but whatever Davante Adams did in that game was damn close, man, because it's like the way that he's able to get separation, his break off the line, and all that stuff we were hearing prior to the season. You remember it, Derek, where he was on the Pivot podcast.
Yep.
And you probably saw that too, Alon, where he was like, just do it. What did he say? He basically said, like, I got 3 different options that I could do in my mind with every single coverage that you give me. So it doesn't matter what you do. And we're really starting to see that. I don't know. With that guy, like, I'm feeling okay about the future now. It was at first I was not feeling great, but now like, all right, if they can figure things out and they stick together for another year, I'm willing to see this through. I am.
Yeah, I think that they've found a groove now, and especially with just Devontae Adams and Foster Moreau and Josh Jacobs and Mac Hollins. If all goes right, I don't know about for tomorrow's game, but we're in that window now where Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow could come back, and that would be, you finally see everybody on the field together and what this offense can finally do. So things are getting interesting. I don't know if they'll pull this off. It would be fantastic. It probably one of the better runs to end a season. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl team. Probably not.
Yeah.
But it would be a great story to win 8 in a row and make the playoffs. I think it's manageable, but also really tough to go from where they were when they were thinking about, the fans were crying for Josh McDaniels to be fired. Derek Carr cried himself. And now we got Chad Johnson crying over Devontae Adams' route. So all coming together in the end. And I will admit, I've been talking to Alon the last couple of weeks. I am debating about whether getting a really cheap flight on Spirit Airlines to go to this New Year's Day game with the Niners and Raiders.
It's the only way to fly, Derek. Spirit. I mean, it's bar
only
none
to
the
fly
best.
to Vegas, I would say. It's a terrible airline, but yes.
It's an hour flight. I think you can deal with the Spirit hooligans.
I was totally fine with it. Like I'm sure people have had terrible experiences on Spirit, and I've seen the videos of people smoking cigarettes in the middle of it out of nowhere. But like, I don't know, the only problem I had, I guess, and well, this was a me problem. This wasn't necessarily the flight attendant's problem, but had an alcohol, had a couple of Jack and Cokes or whatever. She's like, make it a double. You're going to Vegas. And it's like what? Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
On your dime?
Yeah, I know, right? So I did, which was stupid, but you know what? Whatever. I had money to spend at the time. Yeah. And then I tried to go to the bathroom and didn't realize that the seatbelt sign had been put up. And then she like yells at me to go back to my seat. I'm like, you did this to me.
So, she got you drunk and then yelled at you. Oh God.
So you're one of those people now, Steven, that yell at flight attendants on airplanes?
I did not yell. You know how I am, Derek. Come on. I was very passive aggressive.
I'm sure you were. I was in the same situation coming home from Florida to see my mom during Thanksgiving. Go to the bathroom, and one of the flight attendants say the seatbelt sign is on, and I'm like, I understand. I really need to go. She's like, all right, and that's all you could do, really. And of course, I'm in the bathroom holding for dear life while I'm trying to urinate, and it's messy. And all I think is, like, you ever seen the Key and Peele sketch where they tell him to go to the sit down, and he's like, is it illegal for me to go to the bathroom? But is it illegal? Is it illegal? And he goes to the bathroom, and of course they have massive turbulence, and it's exaggerated to the fullest extent where he's coming back soaking full of piss. And yeah, it's a funny sketch. But yeah, I always wonder, like, in that situation, just like, and that, would I rather feel uncomfortable where I'm gonna, burst my bladder, or do I risk it and go to the bathroom?
Lady, I can bump my head or I can crap my pants. Those are your options.
Exactly.
And yeah. And quite frankly, those are my options. So I'd rather bump my head than ruin this good pair of trousers I have on.
So point being, you should take Spirit and go.
Yeah.
I'm honestly thinking about it. I was looking at the prices the other day. I was like, this is manageable. Steven, you coming?
Probably not.
All right, fine.
It's tough to make it, man. And I've already got work scheduled lined up. Schedule lined up, and I don't want to.
Just retire, Steven.
What's that?
Just retire.
Retire already? Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
You made it. I mean, come on. You were there for like a couple months at CBS.
That is going to be an insane game. Like that's going to be nuts. Like
you're
on vibes. Like if you want Oakland Raider Stadium vibes, if you want Coliseum vibes, like the Niners are going to bring it back to that probably.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I worry about, though, and
What's
we got a long time till that game. But I worry, and Alon, you tell me if I'm wrong here because you've been to the games since they moved to Vegas. I worry about Niner fans taking over that stadium.
I was worried about that too. And and after being there for about 2 seasons now, I'm not very worried about it anymore. Okay. I'm not saying that they won't have fans, because they will, because the Niners are a huge brand. But I haven't seen the stadium been taken over like once. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe against the Broncos a couple times,
Mhm.
but that's not necessarily because the Broncos are these world beaters that a lot of people, myself included, sold their Broncos tickets because we want to go to that game. A lot of people have seen the Broncos play, but I would expect a nice 70-30, maybe a 75-25 split for that Niner game.
Okay. All right.
And that's a lot of Niner fans on the road. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
They
No,
they travel, man.
They do.
Really
Yeah.
travel. They love this version of their team that they got right now. But it also depends on what they. Well, I mean, they've already bought the tickets regardless. It doesn't even depend on what they're going to do for the next 4 weeks. But yeah, man, I don't know. That's going to be nuts. That entire weekend is going to be insane.
and we're all expecting the Raider fans to take over the stadium tomorrow against the Rams, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
At least 50%. At
Yeah.
least.
You
That's
know,
a big stadium. I mean, I don't know. How many Rams fans are there?
Yeah.
I mean,
LA.
well, I mean,
There's probably more Raider fans in LA than there are in Vegas, right? Like just because LA is hugely
for sure.
hugely populated area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So between the three of us, why don't we pick this game? We got the Raiders and Rams going tomorrow night, and the Raiders are 6.5-point favorites. I feel like, God, there's only been like maybe a handful of games, or maybe 2 all season long, where the Raiders were not favorites. Incredible considering that they were 2-7 at one point. But the Raiders are 6.5-point favorites, and the over/under is at 43.5. Steven, what do you think?
Oh man, you know what? Short week. Maybe the defense gives up some points, so I'll go over. But I'll lay the points with the Raiders. I'll take them to win, and I'll lay the points with them. I think they're gonna run that game. But like, you know, it could be a high scoring one. So yeah, give me the over, and I'll lay the points with the Raiders.
All right, Alon, what are you thinking?
Same bet. Same exact bet for the same reasons.
God, I hate to be unoriginal here, but I feel the same way. And yeah, especially, you know, I'm assuming they're going with John Wall for tomorrow, but if for whatever reason they throw Baker Mayfield in there, then I think their chances are that much better. I understand what they're doing with Baker Mayfield with the Rams, just because, you know, Matthew Stafford's out for the season. He's got a spinal issue where it could be career ending. So we'll see what's up with that. Spinal, as Mike Tyson would say.
Broke my back.
I broke my back, spinal. But yeah, I think the Raiders will take over that stadium. That's why I never thought the Raiders were going to open up that the season opener with the Rams winning the Super Bowl, because they know that Raider fans live in LA and they kind of rule LA. So yeah, I see them winning that game tomorrow and winning by more than 6.5 points and going over.
Real quick about this game. So they just get Baker Mayfield. I'm thinking about Raiders history here. How long was Carson Palmer a Raider before Hugh Jackson started him on a Thursday night? Was he a Raider for about 5 days, 6 days?
No, that was later in the season when they played San Diego, and Denarius Moore had that breakout game.
Yeah, was that his first game as a Raider? No, it wasn't. It wasn't. You're right, it wasn't. So never mind. I was gonna say, if Baker starts, this might be the shortest ever putting a guy in on primetime that you picked up on the scrap heap. I don't know. I can't think of too many others.
Doubt he starts. I would say he may come in, but I would doubt he starts.
I'd be worried if he does.
I would too.
Really?
That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah, not that.
Oh, come on.
Not that I'm like Baker's having a terrible season, setting a QBR under 20. Like, that's not good at all. But he's dynamic. He can still throw the ball.
It's just whenever this happens, it's just I told the Raiders find a new way to lose every time. And what other ways would there be? Well, when the team signs their quarterback 4 days ago and they somehow managed to lose. Like, that's why I'd be worried.
I have a hard time believing that he could grasp the offense in that a little bit of an amount of time.
Probably.
I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, that's the voice of reason.
It's also a short week. You know what? I take it back. I don't see Baker Mayfield playing in this game at all. I think it's going to be John Wolford. I think it's going to be Bryce Perkins. I would seriously doubt that they're going to push him out there in this type of situation where he signed on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. He probably strolled in there, got the QBRV, invited John and Bryce in there. Got a nice little thing going. He's probably been. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know.
So, do you guys think that the Rams claimed him because obviously they're given their situation with the quarterback position this year, but also just because they don't want to be screwed by the Niners once again? Now,
I don't think so.
they're not going to play the Niners again, but just to piss off another divisional foe, the Niners ended up with Christian McCaffrey this year. The Rams were in on Christian McCaffrey. I'm not, and also, I'll answer the question myself. I don't think Kyle Shanahan was interested in Baker Mayfield whatsoever. I think he likes Brock Purdy a lot.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't think he cares. I really don't. Like if Brock Purdy goes down, I think he's at the point where it's just like, okay, you know what? If 3 of my quarterbacks go down this season,
Josh Johnson.
and clearly the football gods just do not want me to win this year. So whatever. I'm just going to throw all my chips in with Purdy and let him try to run the offense. That's it.
So that, a lot of shit going on. So obviously the game against the Niners and Dolphins was set up to be Mike McDaniel versus his, mentor in Kyle Shanahan. And that storyline went out the window pretty fast. Tua throws a touchdown pass on his first throw, and it looks like, oh my God, Mike McDaniel knows how to figure out this defense. Not the case at all. I thought Tua looked terrible. He's played well this season. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he looked off rhythm. He looked flustered. He looked just, obviously he's playing with his left tackle and his right tackle being out, but he was pressured the whole game. Of course, Steven last Sunday says that Nick Bosa never gets more than 1 sack in a game, and he'll never be Defensive Player of the Year. And he has 3 sacks and a forced fumble.
That's putting words into my mouth. I never said he's never going to win Defensive Player of the Year. I said that's why he hasn't been one of the guys winning Defensive Player of the Year. And I said that was going back to last year. But remember, we also both of us said Chandler Jones has had half a sack. He's getting close, but I don't know if he's there yet. I think he gets 3 that day. We also said that Nick Bosa, well, there's a chance that he could feast since Teron Armstead's going to be out, in which he did. And you know what? Nick Bosa probably made his Defensive Player of the Year case in that game. I didn't say that he's never going to win DPOY. And I'm not going to take the Emmanuel Acho route right now and try to just what's the word?
Social media pass rusher.
Yeah, it's like what's he trying to do? He's trying to, what's the word that I'm looking for? Who's that?
That's my dog. Sorry, I was like, what the heck's going on over there?
No, what's the word that I'm looking for? He's trying to minimize what Nick Bosa does. Just I didn't get that at all.
Oh, where he commented on the thing with the graphic with Micah Parsons and
and he's just trying to make his argument. And he said I don't know, Parsons puts in more effort and he's doing all these statistics, and Richard Sherman totally shut him down. I didn't get that.
Emmanuel Acho, while love the dude going to UT and everything, but he kind of talks down to people.
He does. And Bosa plays a harder position too. Or I shouldn't say harder. Bosa is asked to do harder things than Micah Parsons is. And Micah Parsons has supreme athletic ability, but Bosa played an incredible game. He was awesome. What you said, Derek, about Tua not looking good during the game, he was under pressure all day, it seemed like. And this was I really liked watching this part of the game. The Niners defense shut down any semblance of a running game for the Dolphins. And they couldn't get any. Raheem Mostert, he had 7 carries for 30 yards. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. It was a dominating performance, and it was going to be Tua's either going to go out there, win this game. Mike McDaniel's going to look like the new kid on the block who's got all the answers, can beat his old master. It didn't happen, and I think you have to thank the defense for making them as one-dimensional as they did. I mean, Tua had to put the ball up in the air 33 times. He only completed 18 of them. That's not good.
Yeah, no, I thought the Niners had a stellar defensive performance again, just making the case for DeMeco Ryans to become a head coach somewhere. And yeah, I mean, me and Steve were talking about in prior weeks, was the Niners defense really that great, or were they playing the right teams? And I think they're the best defense of football, no doubt. And now I think it's going to be extremely hard for them to keep winning, because the biggest thing to come out of that game, of course, was the opening drive where after Tua throws a touchdown pass, Jimmy Garoppolo breaks his foot. And he gets on the cart, and it just sucks. It's a sad situation. Everybody, hates Jimmy Garoppolo, then they love him, and then, this happens, and we don't know about his future with the 49ers after this season. You go into the offseason with two quarterbacks with broken feet, and now they're down to Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, who is going to take them the rest of the way. As far as we know with the playoffs, there was a report yesterday from Adam Schefter saying that if, they're in a good situation in 6 to 8 weeks, Jimmy Garoppolo could come back. So that's like thinking positively that if they'll get to the NFC Championship game, that Jimmy Garoppolo could possibly play in that game. But as Kyle Shanahan said today, it's a long shot. So feasibly, it's Brock Purdy the rest of the way. And I was impressed with Brock Purdy. He didn't do anything amazing. He didn't sling it, but he made the right throws. He made the smart throws. He looked like Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit. Not the same, but he made the smart throws. And I've heard a lot of hype around this guy. Greg's been raving about him. I will admit that he looked more comfortable as a rookie than Trey Lance has. And I want to get your guys' opinion on this. This is, more of a long-term thing, but just the fact that we're going to have Brock Purdy have more playing experience than Trey Lance by the end of the season makes me wonder that I don't know about Trey Lance's future with this team in the long term. I could very well see Kyle being like, hey, I saw Brock play in, down the stretch in the regular season into the playoffs, and I feel more comfortable with him right now, which I know is going to piss off a line of Niner fans. But Kyle Shanahan doesn't give a fuck that he is Mr. Irrelevant at all. So this could set things up to be very interesting, where Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent, Brock Purdy's going to get more playing time than Trey Lance, and everyone expects Trey Lance to be the starting quarterback next season. So, Steven, your thoughts on that real quick.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. It depends on what he does, obviously, for the rest of the year. Going up against a Buccaneers defense, like that's Todd Bowles is just going to be bringing constant pressure. So that's going to be interesting. And we've seen it so much. Like, I don't even want to jump to any. Of course, Brock Purdy looked comfortable, but how many times, and we as, guys who are Raider fans have seen this time and time again, whether it's Matt McGloin or Bruce Gradkowski, like sometimes when the backups come in, like they just look better. They really do. And then you make some snap judgments about, who they are as a quarterback. Oh, this guy's better than this guy. And then then they play a couple of more games and you're like, oh, okay, this is who they really are. This is why, you drafted McGloin out of Penn State in the fourth round or whatever it was. So I'm not ready to make any snap judgments for Purdy yet, but if they end up making it to the NFC Championship and Purdy does not give away the ball too much, doesn't cause too many turnovers, looks like he did in that game against the Dolphins. Yeah, I think going into training camp, I don't know if it's just as simple as like it was this offseason where it's like Trey Lance is our starter and Jimmy's our backup. I don't know if it's going to be the same next year, depending on what they do. Yeah, it really depends.
Alon?
I could see there being a battle for the starting quarterback. So Jimmy Garoppolo, this is his swan song with the Niners. He's not here next year. So that's the supposition where, Derek.
Well, can I chime in real quick? Yeah. Just the irony of that day, because Ian Rappaport that morning says that given the right circumstances, Jimmy Garoppolo could return to the 49ers. So there have been discussions that could have happened.
Yes.
And then, of course, he goes out to break his foot. So there very well could be a case where Jimmy Garoppolo comes back to this team next season.
There could. I'm going to operate from the presupposition, though, that he's not, because I just think that era is kind of, the book, unfortunately, for Garoppolo at this point with a broken foot. And unless they make it to the Super Bowl and he comes back, it looks like that chapter is kind of closing his career as a Niner. Purdy's interesting. I mean, when he was at Iowa State, he's mobile enough. I mean, he can get you some running touchdowns. He can run the ball. He can scramble pretty well. His arm is not – and this is my opinion. His arm is nothing to write home about, and he will make questionable throws, and he did in the Big 12. Did he look good coming in to relieve Garoppolo, although awfully early in that game? Yeah, but like Steven said, we've seen this with backup quarterbacks before. We've already seen it with one team this season, and I think the most notable of those would be Bailey Zappi over with the Patriots, who did have a string of play that looked really good. And
maybe that's what Brock Purdy's going to do, but who knows? We'll see what he looks like this upcoming week. But if you have to ask me, even with Brock Purdy and he's going to have more playing time and experience in the NFL than Trey Lance, I just don't see unless Trey Lance is just a shell of himself athletically and he just doesn't look good in training camp next year. I don't see a world where Brock Purdy beats him out for that starting job. I just don't. I mean, they didn't spend a pick on Trey Lance to have the last pick of the draft play over him. And maybe that's not fair because, it should be about what you do on the field and what the product you put out, not where you're drafted. But the reality also is Trey Lance is a very high draft pick, and he's supposed to be the guy going forward.
No, I mean, I'm probably just exaggerating a little bit and looking forward to the future and everything. But it's just weird to me that they've gone through 3 quarterbacks this season and they're such in a good position to be a great team. They're always, the talk about them this season is could they win the NFC? Could they beat the Eagles? Could they beat the Vikings? And that took a hit on Sunday, obviously. But I thought Brock. Go ahead.
That's the thing, man, is I was watching, all the analysis that was coming out about whether they can make the Super Bowl or not. Dan Orlovsky on ESPN doing the whole film breakdown, which is great because Orlovsky's really, really good at that. And, based on that film alone, of course, you can convince people like, hey, if he does this, if he keeps doing this for the next 4 games, then watch out. Like you can convince people with that. But then you go to Monday Night Football and, Steve Young saying that he likes what Brock Purdy's done and all this sort of stuff. But then Booger McFarland, I think, came in with the best reminder. And he said, we have seen a rookie quarterback come in and take him to the NFC Championship game. Okay, but you got to the NFC Championship game and you lost with the best defense. I think 49er fans at this point were kind of hoping for Super Bowl. And, with Brock Purdy, I don't know if you can beat the Cowboys, man. I know they're the Cowboys, so what are we really supposed to believe with them? But the Cowboys are scoring at an incredibly high rate right now. I mean, you gotta think they could at least put maybe 21 points up on this Niners defense, which is really, really hard to do right now. Nobody can really do that, but I think the Cowboys probably could. I don't know, man. It's just it's a weird situation, and I think everyone's kind of trying to talk themselves into the Super Bowl still being alive. And I don't really see it. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. I really thought this team was going to with Garoppolo. I'm watching this team. I'm like, damn, this is their defense is stacked. Garoppolo is not turning the ball over. He's playing pretty smart football. Oh my goodness. But then when you get to the playoffs and you have a rookie quarterback, chickens are going to come home to roost, I think, eventually.
Just real quick, I hear your point about the Cowboys and the 49ers, but I remember last season, I think they put up 55 points against the Washington football team in a Sunday Night Football game. And, of course, they got knocked down the first round by the Niners. So right. I hear you. I hear you about the rookie quarterback situation and this defense carrying them. They would have to be historic the rest of the way. The prime examples are that in 1999, Trent Dilfer broke his clavicle and Sean King had to go the rest of the way, and they made it to the NFC Championship game with Sean King and lost to the Rams. The one that I have been bringing up more is the 2011 Houston Texans, where Matt Shaw, same situation, broke his foot, and they had to go with TJ Yates. And TJ Yates actually did all right and took him to the playoffs and won a playoff game, but then they got knocked out. It's just a lot to ask of a rookie quarterback. So I don't see it happening. It's funny to hear guys like Dante Whitner, who came on with us and said, I think that the Niners' chances are elevated. And I was like, that's a little much, Dante. Even Greg thinks that they have a chance with Brock Purdy. I think it's, just hope, because the Niners have been through a lot of bullshit. Obviously, they lost Super Bowl. They lost the NFC Championship game. I think it's just them not wanting to have another season go to the wayside again. But I think it's a lot to ask of Brock Purdy. Alon, what do you say?
I don't think that they should be written off. That defense is incredible, and Kyle Shanahan, if there is a coach that is favorable for that situation for a young guy coming in towards the end of the season, his offense might be the one, especially with the playmakers that they have around Brock Purdy. So it's not that he can't pull the right strings and just be a delivery man of the football. I think Brock Purdy can definitely do that. and Kyle Shanahan can put him in a position with those other guys like McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle in a position to win. The problem is when you do go against some of these other elite teams that are more complete than you, and it turns into a quarterback duel. Like, I just don't know if Brock Purdy can win those. The other part of this that I hate, because I think the Niners, and I told you this, Derek, before, at the start of the season, and Steven, I said this to Derek, was that I think the Niners' best chance, and this was when Lance was going to start the season, is with Garoppolo starting, being the starter for them. I thought their Super Bowl window was open wider with him than it would be with a rookie and Trey Lance. And it's almost like we're back now in that same situation. Except Trey Lance, it's Brock Purdy. So it's kind of like the whole season just got reset again. We know the defense is elite. We know there's playmakers. In fact, they've added one more with Christian McCaffrey. But now you're back into that same situation where maybe the guy who's best for you to win right now is not available, and that's Garoppolo. And now you're going to have to go with a rookie here and try to build it on the fly.
A lot depends on health. A lot depends on the talent that they have. They need all those guys to be present. They need Juszczyk, Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey. They need all those guys to be healthy. Like Debo, I know he played through that last game, but that hamstring and the quad, that's a concern. McCaffrey, like suffering from knee irritation at one point. To be honest, like McCaffrey hasn't had just like that explosive running game yet. He's been fantastic, of course, catching passes, but running the football, he hasn't been amazing to me. Like, he's actually looked a little slower than I'm used to seeing him. So it all depends on health. I mean, if I'm watching that last game and I'm seeing these last 3 games, actually, they need to run Jordan Mason a little bit more and give him a little more carries just to take the edge off of McCaffrey a little bit, because if they want to have any chance, I'm not saying that they're totally dead, because anything can happen in the NFL. Like, anything can. It's not totally out of the realm of possibility that they can win with the rookie QB, but they need all their guys healthy. Like, that's the number one thing. I feel terrible for them. I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, it sucks for Jimmy Garoppolo, but it's going to suck for Christian McCaffrey the rest of the way, because they're going to put 8 in the box and make Brock Purdy make all the throws now. And, I want, if Brock Purdy has to play another great quarterback, I don't know if he's going to be able to put the points up. If he's got to face a 3rd and 14, is he going to make the pass to deliver that throw? So a lot is on the plate for Brock Purdy, but, it just adds in the intrigue. I just think it doesn't really help the chances of the 49ers going forward as far as the best teams in the NFC. I think they took a hit, and I think now you got to look at the Eagles, the Vikings, or even the Cowboys as the favorites in the NFC. Even with, I guess the Cowboys are not going to sign Odell, and that whole thing was weird, where he went to go visit the Buffalo Bills, went to go visit the Giants, and then it all seemed like he was going to sign with the Cowboys. He goes to the Suns game with Micah Parsons, and Trayvon Diggs, and then, the Cowboys ask him, can you run some routes for us? And he's like, no, I'm not working out for anybody. Takes the physical with them, and they're not really happy with the physical. And this is, I guess Odell told Micah Parsons, I'll be good in 5 weeks. So what was the whole plan here? He was going to sign the contract and then be like, all right, I'm going to go chill, and then I'm coming back for the playoffs. No, you can't do that. So I don't know what the whole point.
I'm over it, man. I'm over this whole OBJ injury tour. Like, he returns and automatically whoever he goes to turns into a Super Bowl contender. It's like now I'm kind of just like piling on because I didn't know this would be the case. I actually thought he was going to be healthy, but finding out that the dude has not even rehabbed to the point where he'll be ready, but like for a team, maybe even by the postseason, like what?
Yeah, I think he was begging on someone just signing him and then just using him for the playoffs. But if I'm the Cowboys, you're scoring 54 points against the Colts. I think you'll be okay. I would say that I don't think Odell gets signed by anybody at this point. I think that he's just going to rehab the rest of the offseason, get fully healthy. It'll have been a full year since he tore his ACL against the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Who knows? He may go back to the Rams at that point, but I think everybody was hoodwinked, if I had to use the term correctly, flabbergasted, bamboozled, if you will. He pulled a fast one, everybody, I think, a little bit, saying that, I'm healthy, I was cleared, and, it's weird when you come off an ACL and you visit teams and you refuse not to work out. And yeah, the Cowboys, I think, were smart in not signing the contract as of yet. I could see Jerry Jones also, just being like, "Oh, we need Odell," blah blah blah. But as of right now, I don't think Odell plays football this season.
I don't think so either.
I could see him. That's the one scenario. The one team that I could see him signing with is the one that just he got a physical with, the Dallas Cowboys. But it seems unlikely now. And I think maybe the likeliest scenario is he doesn't play, like you said, Derek and Steven, he doesn't play football this season. And he ends up going back to the Rams next year and just trying to run it back with them. I mean, it's definitely weird because he was trying to hype it up like he's ready to go, and then we find out maybe the guy can't even run routes the way that we're used to seeing him run. So I don't know, but Jerry Jones is going to do his own thing, and in a few days he might just go, damn, you know what? I'll just sign him and just maybe we need him for the playoffs. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with adding Odell to your team.
Yeah. But I don't know about signing him to a multi-year contract, which is what he was looking for. Oh, the Warriors, what have you done? Oh, shit.
Oh.
Oh, my God.
I luckily have that on in the other room, but yeah.
Wow. What a catastrophe. So if anybody watching the Warriors game, they were up 123 to 119 with a few seconds remaining, and they couldn't get the inbound in, and they fuck up the game, and Steve Kerr is pissed.
It's now 124 to 123 for everybody.
Yeah, and it's final. The Jazz beat the Warriors, and they had that game, and they fucked that up. Good Lord.
Okay, so you're again you got Jerome on the inbound. Okay, Olynyk just okay. This is taking a while. All right, there we go. Oh
yeah, and who fell down there? Was that Jordan Poole?
Yeah, Poole.
Yeah,
it looked like I don't know what the plan was. They were trying to get the ball to Clay in the corner, and it just didn't work. Wow, jeez, man.
That's all time right there. I can't wait to hear Steve Kerr's press conference after that one. That's a bad loss right there. And you know what, though? They didn't have Steph Curry playing tonight. They didn't have Draymond Green playing tonight. They didn't have Andrew Wiggins playing tonight. And James Wiseman came back tonight. But you had that game. That is just a
they had a horrendous third quarter, so they battled back, but they weren't able to close the show.
Yeah. Kuminga was awesome tonight. So you got that. At least there's plenty of silver linings, but you want to win after that. Damn, that stinks.
Yeah, that's a hard loss right there. Anyway, what did you guys take away from week 13 of the NFL? Any games, and Steven, I'll start with you. Any games that stood out to you besides the Raiders and Niner game?
Well, I was not prepared for this question. Hang on, I have to go back and remember because my memory is terrible. You know this.
I'm aware. Alon, any games that stick out to you?
You know what? So one of the ones that was not a marquee matchup that stuck out to me was the Lions against the Jaguars. The Lions hanging great talking point to start out with. The Lions hanging 40 on the Jags. That was very, very weird. I couldn't believe that happened. The other one was the Cowboys and the Colts. And that game was close. God. And then in the fourth quarter, it's just the Cowboys are like, all right, enough effing around here. We're just going to bury you. And that's what they did. So welcome to the NFL, Jeff Saturday, for real now. And, maybe the other one, the Commies and the Giants, 2020 tie. No one really likes seeing ties. And I guess I'm burying the lead here. With
I love seeing ties.
You like a tie, Derek? You like a good tie?
No, I've
I know you.
Steven knows this. For years, I've always said there should be ties in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. But and the other game to me, and I think this is one that kind of I really don't know what to take away as far as individual teams from this past week, except the Eagles are still really damn good, and they just crushed a Titans team where, Derek, we thought that game was actually going to be a good one. It was not good. The Eagles crushed them. But one for me is I didn't watch it live because had the Raiders and Niners on, and it was at the same time, so I couldn't watch it. But the fact that the Bengals beat the Chiefs, that Bengals team, can't count them out in the AFC. Like
No.
I watched the highlights going back, and some of these throws that Burrow makes, he's just so poised, man. And that defense can cause problems. So that was one takeaway from me, was like the Bengals, and then also the Browns putting up 27 yet barely scoring like an offensive touchdown. Like, that was
Deshaun Watson looked terrible.
yeah, he did.
He looked like a shell of himself. He looked like what he looked like in the preseason. It was really bad.
Yeah.
I think the other game, I like the way Steven said it, was we know a few things are still true. Like, for instance, the Eagles still being dominant. The Cowboys look darn good. Teams like that. But then what do I do with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers victory by a point over the Saints? Do I just go, well, Tom Brady's still he's still Tom Brady. He can score 14 points in less than 5.5 minutes to get a victory at age 45. I don't know if that team's any good, but they're going to win that division.
They are by default, and we'll see how they do against the Niners defense on a short week this week. But I think it's more on Mark Ingram stepping out of bounds and them doing a ridiculous 3rd-and-1 play, just like on a zero route, which was stupid. And then Tom Brady, I don't know what it is. It's very, very similar to the Rams game earlier this year. When they go no huddle and Tom Brady just tells Byron Leftwich, I got this, they could score. So, yeah, that game is interesting. I really don't know about the Bucs. I think they're just going to win that division because the NFC South sucks. But as far as games that stood out to me, the Jets are still impressive to me. Even though they lost to the Minnesota Vikings, Mike White, you're going to have a situation on your hands next season. I think you guys saw with all the whole team wearing Mike White shirts. And
He's their starter going forward.
He's their guy, and I don't know what you do with Zach Wilson after he was drafted 2nd overall. The Eagles were dominant, and I got to start looking at Jalen Hurts as like, I keep questioning if he's going to be able to throw in the playoffs, and as long as he's got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I think he's going to be fine. Their running game is really good too. That's the thing, is the Titans took away the running game, and they were still able to throw on them. And A.J. Brown with the ultimate, fuck you back to the Titans, dominant performance. I want to say got the Titans GM fired for trading him. It's a weird situation where you have a winning team, but yet you fire your GM in the middle of the season. It's rare. I was very impressed with the Bengals. I think that right now they're right there. Given the injury, so news that came out today, Von Miller, we thought that it was going to be just a knee tweak and he's going to come back in a couple weeks. Nope. Found out today that it is a torn ACL. So he is gone for the season, which sucks. And I think it's anybody's AFC at this point. I think the Chiefs are really good, but they have a bugaboo with the Bengals. I think the Bengals are really good. And the Bills have looked really good recently, but they haven't looked as sharp as we thought they were going to be. So without Von Miller now, I don't know if they have, that extra edge to beat the Chiefs or maybe even to beat the Bengals. So I think it's wide open in the AFC, but I think that obviously given the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo, I thought the Eagles separated themselves from the NFC, but the Cowboys are right there too. They're just in the same division, and we'll see them play each other in a couple of weeks. Putting 54 points up against the Colts, that was at some point you're just like, hey, that's enough. You're just beating up on a small child at this point. I'm trying to think of any other games that stood out to me. Oh, you know what? So no matter what happens with any teams this season that were disappointing, I don't think I've ever seen something quite as bad as the Broncos this year. Losing to the Ravens, Lamar Jackson left the game. He'll be out for a couple of weeks. Who's the guy that fills in for Tyler Huntley, right?
Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley filled in, and even last season I thought he did a good job filling in for Lamar Jackson. He gets the win over the Broncos. The Broncos were able only to score 9 points in that game between just the corniness off the field of Russell Wilson, him getting yelled at by Mike Purcell last week, questions about his, teammates buying into him, and him just being atrocious this season. That's probably like the most disappointing thing of this season, where everybody thought that Russell Wilson was going to make the Broncos a fantastic team, and they just absolutely suck. And he probably he'll probably remain as the quarterback, obviously, because they signed him the contract. You're not just going to get rid of that in one season, but Nathaniel Hackett is probably going to be fired.
They haven't scored more than 16 points since week 8. That was against the Jags, where they scored 21. mean, they've had like 10, 10, 9, 16. That's it. I mean, they just had 9 points. And you're right, Derek. They look, I don't know what they mortgaged their future to get Russell Wilson. And it seems to be their MO over there. Let's go get a older quarterback who's proven. And they're trying to do it again. And it is not working. And
one of the worst trades in NFL history so far.
Yeah.
Like so far. It's turned into that.
It is really bad. And you talked about just real quick, a quick note here about that Titans game. Derrick Henry, this is really alarming for the Titans. He hasn't rushed for over 100 yards in I want to say since, against the Chiefs. That was the last time. He's been held under 40 the past 2 weeks. So there's some teams, even good teams like the Titans or teams with winning records that are scuffling and not playing up to their potential right now. Derrick Henry's one of those guys for them. But yeah, the Broncos, watching them play live, it's amazing to me. You have a new offensive-minded head coach. You have a future Hall of Fame quarterback, and it just looks bad. I don't think there's Derek, I've told you this. I don't think there's a clunkier-looking offense in the entire NFL than the Broncos.
Yeah. By the way, you know who the leading rusher was for the Titans this past week?
Ryan Tannehill?
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I guess, but yep, I bet it was him. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Before we get out of here, fellas, Alon brought it up before we hopped on here. The big story in all of sports was with baseball and hot stove and free agency. And yesterday, around 2:00, if you looked on Twitter, you would see that John Heyman reported that Arson Judge appears headed to the Giants. And, so I was working at KNBR, and of course that news comes along. It's not really news. It's just, the John Heyman tweet. And everybody goes crazy. Like, oh, he's coming. And I was like, yeah, it's also John Heyman, and he misspelled his name. And let's see when actual, what's up?
He said appears to be going to the Giants.
Appears is the key word. And also there's no money. There's no years attached, so let's just wait and see. And a couple of minutes later, John Heyman tweets out, "I may have jumped the gun here." So everyone got their hopes up, and I don't blame anybody as far as Giants fans. This was the closest thing. This was a lot more realistic than Bryce Harper or Giancarlo Stanton or Shohei Ohtani.
Thank you.
This, given the history of Aaron Judge and Lindor, but whatever, close enough to the Bay Area, he, said everything in the Time magazine, saying that he was pissed off with the Yankees about all that stuff leaking with the contract discussions before the season. He also talks about his high school dream of being a Giant. He makes a fake video of him at the St. Regis with his wife.
Everything was a real video.
Yeah, a real video?
Yes, the video was real, but it was staged.
Well, he was staying at the St. Regis. It was just posted for a reason. It was calculated. It wasn't staged.
Yes, good on his agent. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
But in the end, all of it was for naught. The Giants offered him 9 years. What was it? $360 million.
Mm-hmm.
And he went with the Yankees offer.
And how could you not? How could you not?
Well, I mean, there's an argument to be made if he wanted to come home, but I also understand that what do the Giants really have to offer at this moment besides nostalgia of coming home?
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that he went back to the Yankees. Given yesterday's circumstances, I was a little surprised just with all the hype and everything. But I understand why Giants fans are a little upset today. I don't know if Carlos Correa makes up for it, but I understand everyone's pain today. It sucks, and you wonder, every year Farhan, if he's going for it or not. But yeah, I mean, this was pretty devastating today if you're a Giants fan.
Yeah,
Steven, you are.
And the Bryce Harper thing, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm tired of Bryce Harper being brought up because the reason Bryce Harper did not want to come to the Giants was because they did not look like they were built to win, which was totally understandable. In 2019, But now in 2022, like to me, that's the number one reason why he didn't want to come here. Like I'm still waiting for like that investigative piece where it's like some, reporter for ESPN or maybe someone for The Athletic does this deep dive on like an investigation into Aaron Judge's decision to go to New York, blah, blah, blah. And something's going to come out about it. But right now, like what I determined from it is that they are not ready to win. They are not ready to compete in Judge's eyes. And me personally, like, when I hear that, like after 3 years, and it's probably the same reason as Bryce Harper had. Bryce Harper, it was 2019. Like the team wasn't built. There was nobody in the farm system. But 3 years later, you still haven't built a team. Like the whole point is to build one, but also to entice free agents to come to your team. And he hasn't built a roster that's enticing a free agent who you had the nostalgia of him being a Giants fan. You had the money, you had everything, and it wasn't enough to get him past the fact that he could still go back to New York and probably win there sooner rather than later. So I don't know. I'm talking myself into being okay with it because I think if they do get Correa, I think Correa is the better overall player. And personally, like I know Judge is the AL MVP, but I think Correa has just been I don't know. They're both really, really good, but I think Correa would make up for a lot of that because I think he's a damn good player. And if you can get him for an 8-9 year deal, like I'd be totally okay with that. But yeah, it was just it's just the whole winning thing is what gets me. The fact that he doesn't think the Giants can win. That's probably true. Then it's probably true.
Alon?
Yeah, that has to be the most disheartening that has to be the most disheartening thing for Giants fans is that they're willing to their team is willing to shell out big dollar amount for a prime guy like Aaron Judge, and he goes, nope, I can't go there because I'm not going to win, and he's going to stay with the Yankees, and the contract's huge. I don't know what the Giants look like. Do they build a winner around him and 2 to 3 more years if they sign him on a 9-year deal? That's kind of what you're hoping for. But yeah, at the end of the day, he says no. And it sucks too for the fans who kind of get, like you said, hoodwinked into believing that Aaron Judge or Arson Judge is going to go there. And then he doesn't. It's oops, my bad. But just looking at his contract too, his contract with the Yankees, is $360 million. I would argue that, and I think it's interesting, Stephen, that you think Correa is actually, more valuable for the Giants. Maybe he is because he can do more things, but I think Aaron Judge is going to be underpaid. I think he shouldn't make as much money as Trout, which he's not going to. Trout's on a $425 million contract. He gets paid less than Mookie Betts, which is hard for me to believe. And Mookie's a great player, but I think Aaron Judge is more valuable. He's definitely a more imposing force offensively, at least power hitting, but when I look at this, I'm like, God, in 2024, what the hell is Shohei Ohtani going to get? Aaron Judge is getting $360 million. Shohei Ohtani is going to get $500. He's going to get half a bill. He's going to make more than Mike Trout. This is a huge contract for a lot of reasons, but from the Giants' perspective, it's like, you know what? You missed out on Aaron Judge. You couldn't bring him in. That's okay. Keep making these offers to guys. Keep offering. Keep trying to build your team. And it's also not good, like you said, Stephen, where 3 years ago they didn't have a team and they still don't have one now, really. And
yeah,
I look at a team like the Mets, who I don't want to compare the Giants to the Mets, but I look at the Mets. They've been through, it's like every year's a tear down and then every other year's a rebuild, and they're competitive kind of deal. It seems like they've been able to build teams on the fly, and I don't know why this newish structure now in San Francisco hasn't been able to do the same thing. They swing and miss on Judge, but there's other people to get further down the line.
That's why I need an investigative piece to be done, because I don't really think anybody knows what's going on within the organization and all this talk about Farhan Zaidi not being a good salesman and all this sort of stuff. Like, we don't know that. Like, I don't know. Maybe Judge went into that meeting and saw what the Giants were building. Maybe he wasn't a fan of, I don't know, Gabe Kapler. Maybe he's like, I don't want to play with this dude for the next 8 years. Like, I don't know. I really don't know the reason why he wouldn't choose it. But the number one thing to me is he doesn't envision this being a franchise in which he can win. And if you like the Time Magazine article, everyone's focusing on the Yankees thing. I was focusing on the video where he says, I just want to win a World Series. Like, that's my ultimate goal. I don't care about the other accomplishments. And if your ultimate goal is to win the World Series, which I do believe, I don't think he's calculating that one.
Mm-mm.
I think he really does want to win a World Series. He doesn't feel like he can do it with the Giants. It's disheartening. Really.
Really do. And the Yankees aren't a bad place to stay for the rest of your career if you want to win a World Series. Chances are they'll win one.
The captain too. 30 for 30.
Do you think, though, Stephen, that given all the reports with John Morosi and even John Heyman yesterday and Susan Slusser, that they were close, that this wasn't just some, whole leverage thing where Aaron Judge was just going to be like, let's use the Giants to our advantage to get a deal back with the Yankees. And the surprise team was the Padres in the end. They were going to offer him 11 years for $400 million. He said no to that. Some people were laughing at the Padres. I was like, shit, good for them, because they already got Juan Soto. They're going to get Tatis back. Jesus. And willing to get him too. That's insane to me. But in the end, he went to go back to the Yankees. Do you think, though, at the last second that he was just negotiating back and forth and just went with the Yankees, and then that the Giants were a legitimate chance?
I think the Giants had a legitimate chance. It's just I do think that obviously the Yankees were the favorite all along, but I think the Giants could have swayed him in him saying, you know what? He probably did go in there initially using them as just a tool, as a tool, basically. But I think there could have been a chance where they maybe brought him in for the meeting, and he's like, "Oh, I might want to. I might actually want to stay here." There probably had to be a lot of convincing to be done. In the end, we're not going to know until the investigative piece comes out from somebody.
Well, I mean, they did pull out the stops. The meeting that took place. Everybody that Judge wanted at that meeting was there, and you can fill in the blanks there.
Yep.
So, yeah. And it's funny to me, I was, doing the show today with Adam Copeland, and he kind of took it hard. And he was, Steven, do you know the biggest contract that the Giants have ever given out to a free agent?
Biggest contract to a free agent? Well,
a player that never played for the Giants. They got in free agency.
Geez, no.
Johnny Cueto.
Wow.
Yeah. Really, Cueto?
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like we were talking about today, and I was, telling everybody, like, this is, it was a good attempt, and I commend them for it. But this is not the Giants' specialty. Yes, they signed Barry Bonds, and they've made moves. Obviously, Brian Sabean was a little more aggressive than Farhan Zaidi, but they've never been a splashy free agent team, in my opinion. I could be wrong, Stephen, but that's just the way I've perceived it.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is just another reason as to why you're not going to think that they are. Teams can change, though. That's the thing. Organizations can change. And it's not like this regime was the one that gave Johnny Cueto that money. So this new regime needs to prove that they can. And I thought they would have with Aaron Judge, but it turns out that they didn't. And, moving forward, I don't know. Anything can happen in baseball, but in the end, I'm just, I don't know. I'm trying to control what I can control here. And, you know what I mean? And I tried to let myself, get really frustrated with it for an hour, but in the end, nothing's different. The Giants are still the Giants and the Yankees are still the Yankees, with the same players pretty much.
Were you up at 5 a.m. when the news broke?
Yeah, it was 5:24.
Oh, 5:24. Fuck.
Yeah, I broke it. It was great.
Oh, fantastic.
I think the attempt, though, is admirable. And that's something that you do like to see as a fan. And that, if you're a Giants fan, you need to look at it and go, okay, well, they're showing that they're going after the biggest freaking name that you can go after right now. They did. They missed. But maybe that sets a precedent for them going forward. Maybe they're taking a cue from two of the other teams in their division, the Padres and the Dodgers, who seem to have no issue with opening up the checkbook and just throwing it at guys. I mean, they've gotten the play taken away from them by those two teams down south. So the Giants need to catch up a little bit, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come.
Sorry, I was just seeing if there was any quotes from Steve Kerr, because I'm sure I'm looking at the press conference right now, and I got on mute, and I'm sure he's pissed with the way that game ended. Jesus Christ. Gentlemen, this was fun. I like doing a three-headed podcast here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, this was good. Alon, thank you for joining us, and
Of
we
course.
we love you to join us Wednesdays if you're up for it. And Steven, thanks for staying up late. I know you got to wake up early tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Going to bed right now.
All right then. Then we'll tuck you in. We'll see you on Sunday for just a pregame show, man. Me and Steven. And I'll be drinking a hot beer with hot sauce in it. So until then, Steven, say what you always say.
You don't have to do that. That's just our opinion, man.